Welcome to the IFCA Journal podcast. I'm your host, PJ Hedrington. I would like to welcome our guest. Okay, and you coaches, you hear me say a legend. This is the legend, the man behind the success of Kuemper Catholic for 17 years, Mr. Mike Mertes. He has 2 state titles at Kuemper, Assistant Coach of the Year this year. By the way, congratulations, big dog.
Thank
He
you.
is He has coached several all-state, all-district offensive linemen and even sprinkled in a few defensive lineman guys. I think Mike said a couple defensive line stuff when we were coaching a couple of times here and there. But
I don't think
he's
so.
but he's someone that I appreciate, and I think a lot of you will gain a lot of knowledge from him, from offensive line plays. That he does a great job. He's also had a couple guys playing college, Sam Brinks, Class Whittle up in Northwest Missouri State, and a couple Peterman, I think, at Central. So he's had a lot of success with offensive line play, and he's a great teacher. It's my joy to introduce our guest, Mike Mertes. What's up, man?
Not much, man. Thank you for that nice intro. Little too much fluff, but it was good. So
Only the best for the best, baby. Only the best for the best.
yeah, I don't know legend. It's not quite there, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm excited to have you on the podcast and just talk football with you because, again, I don't even know if you knew this. Like, you're the only coach, offensive line coach, and I've had coached with a lot of good ones, but you're the only one that when I would ask questions to you, offensive line questions, you wouldn't be irritated as some DB know-it-all is coming up talking to you. You're like, okay, this is why I do this. This is why I do that. You were just like, okay, you're irritating, but I'm just going to entertain you by answering your questions. And I've always appreciated it.
I had to give you a simple answer so you'd go do something else. But it was always good to appreciate it, and there's always enough people. It's like basketball. Everybody's got an idea when somebody misses a block how it should happen and stuff, but do you know the real struggles of it? So.
Yeah, that's good. I've always appreciated it. All right, man. Let's get into it. There's a lot of again, a lot of knowledge you have and a lot of good conversations and I know we're going to be touching on some of the things of philosophy and all the things. There's a lot to offensive line play. Like there's just so much. I mean, we could do like 7 different podcasts about this. So, but we're going to hit on a little bit things. So coaches, if you, like I said, if you learn anything from this or you need more information from Mike, he'll at the end of our podcast, he'll leave his information at the end, email. You can reach out to him. He's amazingly resourced to have and just a great coach and a great person to be around. All right, here we go, Mike. All right, what's your coaching philosophy?
I'm not really sure what that is. You talked about the 17 years at Kemper. That I had more success probably my first 3 years at Kemper coaching than I ever had as a player, and it was just kind of one of those things. Coming from Sibley Cheaton, not a real premier juggernaut. Didn't win a lot in high school, but kind of turned the page. You talk about legend Coach Hanks started up there and took us to new heights, brought us a winning season for the first time in like 20 years, and just kind of learned from a lot of people like him, Coach Nag, Coach Tucci up there, Coach Wright, and Coach Spooner. Just a lot of guys when I was younger that taught me the way. And then went to college and learned from Coach Stripmatter and a lot of those guys. Just kind of what it meant to be a coach, what it meant to be a leader, a person. Much like after high school, I never thought I'd play football again. Wasn't really
Right.
interested in it. Met with Coach Matter. Decided, hey, I got nothing else to do. I might as well go play football. Kind of fell back in love with it, and same thing after football in college. I had no interest in coaching. I never played football in college with the thought of I'll coach someday. I probably should have realized that I should be coaching, but never really had that thought. And then out of college, got the job at the city of Carroll. Luckily, Coach Penner's wife worked for the city. Said, "Hey, heard you played football. My husband coaches as a coach. Would you be interested?" And then the rest is 17 years later history. And I think that there's big moments as a coach. The relationships that you grow with the kids is probably my favorite thing. I mean, winning's winning, but there's something about I remember my first year, just kind of the emotional moment of walking into Casey, something as simply as a kid saying, "Hey, coach," and that just kind of struck me um, a little different all of a sudden. What you mean
Right.
to somebody else, the impact you can have on someone's life. So just
Yeah.
kind of just that
Yeah. Yeah.
direct, indirect impact. Seeing kids years later, I may not remember their name or that, but they kind of remember some things, hopefully good, that happened on that field that they did. But yeah, just kind of the basic, trust, relationships, getting kids the most out of it. I'm not paid to be a talent evaluator, and probably a poor one at that. But the best experience we can give a kid over 40
Yeah.
is what we want to do. So that's what
Alright.
I lean on mostly.
Good. That's a good sounding board. Alright, let's get into the offensive line play, okay? What's your offensive line philosophy? Alright? And again, I know you personally, so I know you do a bunch of different things, but what's the bread and butter of what you believe in and how you run your group?
Yeah, I think it's simply if you don't get off the ball, you don't go anywhere. So, I mean, our first thing is we want to get off the ball. We want to be sprinters. We want to get that first foot in the ground and then make some money after that. Our big push all the time is just getting out of our stance, get going. You probably won't go the right place or do the right thing every time, but if we
Mhm,
do it fast enough, it's better than standing still. And it's just a big thing to, and I know we'll get into this later, but, every day we just spend time. We want to get out. We want to get running, take care of each other. And simple as ever, I don't really, there's a lot of very intelligent line coaches that have a million calls and all that. I let the kids kind of do their own thing with that. And then they clue me in on it if I need to.
right, right.
Just basically offensive line. We want to get off the ball. We want to be physical.
Okay. All right. Again, I'm going to get into question three, but before I just kind of for our younger offensive line coaches, how did you develop your philosophy and progression through your career?
Yeah, I think, when I first started, my college coach was kind of an old school, like, you'd sit there and take a right 6-inch step back, right 45 step, right, and
Right.
I did
Right.
that for years. And I finally sat there one year and had some discussions with some of the kids and realized that's boring. I'm not talking, but I'm like, I realized that, like, watching film, the great thing about end zone cuts, you see this stuff and I'm like, "We're not even doing these stuff, like, what are we doing?" So,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
we're we're wasting time, valuable time on that. So, we completely scrap that now. I think a lot of this, took from Coach, Barnett at Iowa, just watching their stuff and him on the clinic years ago. And, it's just simple, we wanna take that step, we wanna get to a spot and get us on a plane and then go. But yeah, it's just kind of a progression. When you're younger, you only know what you know, and even now, I only know what I know. But you only get so much time, and you never want to waste it with those kids. You can see those kids when there's parts that have to drag in practice, and that's just part of it. But to sit there and do foolish things, which I felt was foolish, was just something we kind of eliminated. And we wanted to really get that emphasis after getting after it. Yeah, I'd like to be a little more technical. But years ago, I had somebody explain to me or read somewhere, about how I think it was Coach McGraw at Notre Dame women's basketball talked about how they try and be good at two or three things. There's so many things to be good at, but dumb it down. And we're limited on time and people and opportunity. So just to dumb it down, be as good as you can at two things and then survive the rest.
Okay. All right. All right. So we were getting into like you were starting to go towards the practice schedule. So what's your weekly practice schedule for your position group? I mean, you can go into depth here with as far as your indie drill and all the things that you kind of do. Whether I know as a linebacker coach we do eddies, but just some of the things that you touch on, some of the drills that you have, your daily habits that you teach.
Yeah, I mean, we, generally, especially in high school world, coaching JV football Mondays. I very rarely get to be around. Primarily, that's a walkthrough. I'm lucky enough to have a couple guys, Russ Steinkamp and Coach Kaufman, help out, and they do a remarkable job taking the offensive line when I'm not there. So they'll get them through some just daily walkthrough stuff on Mondays and that, and then
Hmm.
Tuesday usually is our bigger indie day. We get a full time, which full time is maybe 15, 20 minutes, depending what we're looking at. But every day, those days, I like to just simply get on a yard, the 5 yard line or so every 5 yards, and we just drive off the ball. We get off the ball, move a man, Big on the hat and hands and, blowing our nose. We want to be everything tight, running upfield. We're not asking the defense to be all Americans. We want to move them, but we want to get our knees in and just run and get guys off the ball and working our down blocks. We're big into the down blocks. And then luckily enough, we started this kind of years ago when we were able to get some more coaches and that usually I'll take outside guys tackles, and then the other coaches will take interior
Right.
guys, and they'll work their pull drills, stuff like that, and that's kind of a big thing because, we don't it's good to have everybody know every job, but I don't need to tackle to know how to pull. We don't pull our tackle in anything, so we have a few more things, our reach block techniques, stuff like that I'd rather focus on, and then those guys take guards and centers, work a little more pin pull action, getting up to backers and stuff like that. But yeah, generally, I mean, we want to work getting out the ball, want to work some double team stuff. Probably that thing that always gets left behind until I get yelled at on Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon. Is that getting up to backer aspect? We're not good at that. That's probably a drill that gets left out. It's a if we can get it in, we try and get it in, but just, that double climb to a backer type thing. Probably our 3 drills that we try and hit on every week, just, getting somebody off, down blocking, and then getting up to backer and stuff.
Okay. Well, hey, okay. Well, I don't wanna cut you off, but I know as coaches are listening to this, I know the first thing that some of us coaches are thinking, okay, is because, most of us are in a small school setting. I know you're at 2A, but some guys are 1A, A, or 8 man, and they've only have 1 coach, 1 offensive line guy, and they're very
Yeah,
lucky to have an assistant. So, I was
yeah,
just like, when you said you've got other assistants and you take your group and you got guards or so and so's got tackles, go into like, that's cool. So go into that a little bit more
yeah.
and, like, how does that benefit you having an assistant offensive line guy that you or guys that you could depend on? Like, I like that
Yeah,
aspect. So,
it's
yeah.
kind of a basketball thing, you go to any of these high school basketball games, there's only 5 guys playing and there's 45 coaches on that bench, but offensive line, a lot of times, it's one of us with 5.
Right, right.
And probably a bigger part of the game. But yeah, I mean, that's a very lucky thing. If you can get it, it's awesome to have just to work the different disciplines. Dip the years by myself or somebody dipping in, but when you can have that
Yeah,
passion. But yeah, and it's also nice then you have other guys that, hey, I think this kid could move around or play this position. But yeah, they do a great job. We just, look up to set that down block, and then our centers work that exclusively pretty much because unless you have a 3 or a head up, then you're pretty much always down blocking, so it's a big block for them, and
right,
then,
right.
just work rat pulls and stuff,
Okay.
and yeah, as the outside lineman, drilling through all the reach stuff and, yeah, just base up blocking, so
Right, right, right. Now, and again, I know we kind of swayed away from our question, but again, that adding that other piece of offensive line coach and you're an offensive line development, I mean, that's just got to probably take off. Like, how is that process for you? Does that help out with your younger kids that you divide as much time as you do? Does that help the development better, or what do you think?
yeah, I think it has, before when, you're kinda watching any drill, one guy gets your attention, the other 4 guys are just, doing
Right.
something.
Yeah.
Hopefully, they're disciplined enough. Hopefully, you have that upperclassman leadership, and we've been
Yeah.
lucky a
Yeah.
lot of times, all our kids, have been great to each other, but yeah, there's those years where it doesn't happen that way. But yeah, you can, develop your younger guys more because I can, like with the tackles, it's literally a one-on-one setting, so, yeah, that down block
Right.
wasn't great,
Yeah.
here's what we need to do, it's not just I think out of the corner of my eye, I saw somebody down there do something wrong, so, yeah, it's allowed for us to have more individual attention, I think, and just create more teaching opportunities than just get-throughs and get the
Right.
indie time
Right.
over with. Yeah.
Right, right. I mean, and there's just so much teaching that goes in the offensive line play that I mean, it's hard to see it all, right? And so it's really
Yeah, and I
it's
mean,
really
we've been lucky like that with having multiple guys, when we go team time, I really like to take my phone and, huddle, use the capture feature and film just the offensive line, from
right.
behind 'cause there's as a line coach knows, there's plenty of times during practice where 37 guys get through, but all 5 guys block somebody, so they don't know who did it, and we're able to see instantly then, like, "Hey, dwell with it." we're not gonna hold practice up, but it's one of those things that, hey, like, you didn't take your step and you got beat, like, that's what happened.
Right.
It's that
Right.
simple. So, we try and, work into practice kinda that instant reaction and stuff without holding up. Especially when we go team time, I'm big, like, I don't we're not gonna sit there and talk about things forever because in a game, we don't get to call timeout after every play and say, "Hey, you're not doing this," or something. So it's kind of fix it on the fly. So hopefully when it comes game like they can reevaluate in the huddle and say, "Hey, I didn't get that guy because I didn't take a step or something."
Okay. Okay. Well, let's keep moving with. I just had to ask that because I know for a lot of our younger coaches or coaches out there in certain communities that only have one guy, and maybe hey,
Yeah,
listen, it's okay to find another assistant to help out with eyes because again, to me and to you, the offensive line is the most important piece, hands down in football. Like that's
yeah,
just the way it. I believe it wholeheartedly, and so why would you not put a set of extra eyes on it? You were going into your indie time on Tuesday and Wednesday. You were going into that. So you could finish explaining that, but I'm sorry I had to cut you off because I just wanted you to get more in depth on that.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, and, like anything, I mean, just our indie time as we go throughout the week get shorter. Wednesday's more just a quick hitter. This year, we're lucky with our numbers aren't crazy good, but, we kinda tried to put an emphasis on Coach Steinkamp really emphasized, like, if we can steal time, let's steal time. So when we're running, say, kickoff return, if we don't have often like, we're doing O Indy during that time. So we get some extra time. We don't have any starters on kickoff return. Then our freshmen ran the scout kickoff team. So we were able to take basically steal 5 or 8 minutes of indie time in that. So that's another thing
Wow,
kind of
nice.
over the
Yeah.
years, you always look over to the side during special teams sometime and you got half the team or three-quarters of the team standing there not doing anything other than
Yeah.
drinking coffee and hanging out.
Yeah, I like that.
And this year we kinda
Yeah.
tried to put that that's a big thing from Coach Steinkamp that, if we can steal time, let's steal time. Let's make the most out of it. We wanna be quick. We don't wanna be there for 2, 3 hours. Let's get some
Right,
more
right,
learning, more teaching in.
right.
Yeah.
And you said you guys did that by having some of your freshmen take those special team reps where your offensive line maybe got an extra 5 minutes of work in?
Yeah, so, I mean, this year,
Wow,
like,
yeah.
we did freshmen to practice, just by themselves, so they were mixed in with us a lot, and then that was kind of their opportunity, like, hey, they can get kickoff reps, so they're running
Right.
scouty
Yes.
kickoff, so now I take my backup linemen, and they're meaninglessly running down the field playing kickoff, um,
Right.
so that was just kind of utilizing other people to go out there so then we could get more offensive line reps, wide receiver reps, just different things, of those.
Yeah,
And
I see.
even I think like the wide receivers, that's probably some guys that get lost during the season then got some additional time working out. So that
Right.
that was a big thing just to really emphasize stealing time when we could.
Yeah, I like that. That's a great idea. I love that. All right. Okay. So now we all have, we all have our 10, 15 minutes indie time that we normally get during the week, however you divide or however you do it. So I know as as an offensive line coach, sometimes, during that 7-on-7 period, you're like, oh, come on, man. Like, I don't need to.
Yeah.
So what do you
Yeah.
yeah, right? 7-on-7 for offensive line coaches, like, really? Like, come on. Okay, so what do you do during that
Yeah.
time, and how do you, again, steal time back, and how do you work on, developing that your group, your unit?
Yeah, I think our thing that we also kind of started maybe a year or two ago is certain times like our 7-on-7, we just turn into team pass emphasis time. So we'll go and we'll basically go the whole team and it's pass, defense knows it's pass. Here we go. You get a more full pass rush, kind of works our quarterbacks a little more.
Okay.
So they're getting somewhat live rush, and then we can work, you get some of these exotic defenses, different blitz packages. We get probably the kitchen sink thrown at us up front, stuff we cannot block, just
Mhm.
different things. So we'll try and mix that in depending what the defense we're facing, depending how much the pass game guys, how much crazy new stuff they have. If we can work it in, we like to go whole team just so we kind of get a general timing idea with the offense. When we are kicked out of that and have to go separate, yeah, a lot of times, it's just trying to get that pass rep. It's hard to replicate any pass rush game like
Right,
because
right,
often,
yeah,
we try to set up a good versus good situation, so it's not, just our good lineman versus a JV reserve type guy, and
yeah,
not getting
yeah,
much of a look. A lot of that, we try and break down into half line type stuff, so it's, getting 2 good
okay,
defensive linemen or something, and, I'm always begging to try and get the linebackers down there or somebody so we get, a better
yeah,
rush look from that stuff,
yeah,
but
yeah,
it's,
yeah,
we try and get limited good reps and, it's not confusing the kids too much, what's simple to us, a simple out call when we gotta go pick up a wide backer or a wide D end a lot of times, the kids don't get that, so there's pass protection time during that where we just simply walk through a
right.
bunch of things, and try and slow the game down as much as we can without confusing them.
That's good. Yeah, that's good work in, yeah. So, again, for that, as a young as a again, a younger coach, you're learning again as an offensive line coach or you're taking over a program, just that time, like you guys said, still in time, making sure guys get extra reps and developing. That's really good. Cool. All right. We're gonna get to the meat and potatoes, and this is my favorite part of this kind of deal. All right. What is your key teaching points on a day-to-day base, but for your young offensive lineman? Okay, so what is your key teaching points on day one with your offensive lines? So just take us through like your first day of camps, what are things you go from, whether it's stance, whether it's hand placement, footwork. What are some? Give me like 3 or 4 key points that you teach on that first week of camp.
Yeah, I think, stance, it's different for everybody. A lot like baseball, a batting stance, everybody's got some wacky thing that they do. As long as you can get out of it and move, I'm not too particular about it. Obviously,
Hmm.
like the inside foot up just for simplicity reasons so we don't get beat. But yeah, I mean, I think probably the key words we hit on and are constantly yelling during drills, it's get off the ball, our hat in hands. And then I really like to emphasize, blowing our nose. Legally, I don't know how much you can say that, but, taking the paint off the front of your face mask and stuff like that. I still have my college face. There's not much paint left on that thing, and, it's just
Right,
we wanna be tight, distant, defensive line loves space, I want no space. It's, I wanna smother and, get our hands inside. We wanna, get on that steering wheel and go type thing. Yeah, kind of
right,
just a
right, right,
goofy drill we do, but seem to like it and take to it as we call them the butter sticks. They're just those, like, 6-foot tall squared, dummies or rectangle dummies or whatever, usually soft. We have a ton of them for some reason, bought them one year, and, we just put those on top of each other, lay them on the ground, top of each other, and we just get out of our stance, and we drive the butter stick off. From our 3rd grade kids up to our high school kids that first day of camp, it's the most enjoyable thing in the world, I guess, so but just that the only teaching point there is just getting off the ball, and hopefully, they see it. We don't want to see false steps. We want to get off and drive that butter stick right off the other butter stick. So key emphasis there. And then, when we take our steps, it's just that first one getting on a directional path and teaching young guys. Everybody comes from youth tackle football or junior high football, and we have great junior high coaches, but there's just not enough of them and enough time to ever work offensive line play. I always, wish I could run down there, run down and coach that every year, but I can't. And they do a tremendous job with them. But, every junior high and young kid wants to stand still and just grab people, and, the biggest thing is breaking above that and getting that step and taking our step and that second step. And then we're going downhill. We want to run. So
right,
that's,
right.
trying
Yeah.
not to be tedious, but getting those kids to understand the importance of it and stuff and really working those, directional step and then that second step, I'm big. I want that up and I want it for we want to create force in the ground and then get our power Z and get running. So
Okay, okay. Now, can you? So, where's now? And I know you do this, but what's your hand placement as far as your teaching points? Okay, so your thumbs are up. What are some of the key elements that you're teaching right away from day one with hand placement and where my aiming point? Because I know you just said blow your nose, but where do I want my hand placement as an offensive lineman from day one? And as a coach, what do I need to be looking for when I teach that?
yeah, I guess, I there's probably a better way, but how I've always done it and liked it is, we're just looking to go thumbs up, shoot our hands. We want to keep elbows in and pretty. And then we want to strike that chest plate where it is. And if I can get my hands on that, I want to run. I want to cover the outside of the numbers and go. Some of that changes when we do, a down block or a reach block, whether we're reach block, we're aiming for outside number away from us and just trying to get that backside hand in and punching the center of the chest. But if we're just straight up dry blocking, we want to see that nice fit, and that's kind of a progressional thing that we'll do. A lot of times I got to remember to slow it down for everybody, but start in that fit position how we hope to get off the ball and have our hands in tight, control that chest plate, and go from there. Because just like anything, whether you're football, wrestling, you want to be inside hand. If my hands are outside of their hands, I've got problems. So we want to win
Right.
that
Yeah.
inside and get hands on chest, keeping our elbows in and strong, try and relate everything back to things that they know, the weight room, where we put our
Right.
hands when we bench, how we have our elbow, done for a purpose, and we want to keep it inside and go. So
Okay. All right. So, what other drills do you use during that week that like are your go-to drills? Because you said the one already, but just can you give me the other three?
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's the butter six just to get out the ball, and then yeah, a lot of just having, limited contact. Obviously, when you have pads on, it's a completely different thing. But, we work a small target, like a hand shield pad, really like to lock up on that just to give us a placement for that and to
Right.
drive off it. And basically, getting in our short groups. I like to try and limit the amount of lines we have and try and go a little faster versus, we have extra eyes, but also want it so the kids we're hopefully seeing each rep and not just skipping it or spending time between two different people going. So when we're working our dry blocks, get on the line, a lot like what Iowa does. We want to see that line vertical movement off that. So we see, how our feet, how our hands, and everything running. So, a lot of it just starts with the progression, whether we fit up and then we're just driving them off the ball and then coming back and trying getting out of a stance, making that contact, and then coming back and making that contact. And now let's run. So,
Right.
trying to get the building blocks of what makes us successful down that way. We do have a sled now. I don't think we had one when you were here. Maybe we did, but
Mm-mm.
I'm 50-50. I'm not a big sled guy just from my playing days. I remember I
Right.
hate
Yeah.
that thing. It's got its place. Coach family that we with us, he loves the sled. He's an old school guy, and technique wise, I don't like sometimes it suffers us, but it's a great get off the ball. Let's hit this thing and just see if we can move it. So, but yeah, I'm
Right.
not
Right.
I'm not terribly big on that kind of field furniture stuff, but yeah, it's got its
Okay.
place.
All right. So when I was with you and on staff the year, the last those 2 years, 12 and 13, we were heavy inside zone. We ran some gap scheme stuff, stretch, counter, those things. And it was funny because I was thinking about that today. And we won a state title with our offensive line group in 2-point stance. And we ran zone and we ran gap.
Yeah,
And I thought you were absolutely nuts. And it worked. Like and they I mean, it worked. I was like, "Are you kidding me? I've never seen this. I've never seen it again," but it works, and it works in the NFL too, so,
yeah,
okay, right? So, yeah.
yeah.
So, my question now, and we talked a little bit before, you're more gap now. How are you teaching your gap scheme? Because you guys are running I think you're running what, A gap are you running A gap power? Or
Yeah, a lot
what
of
are
a
you
buck,
running?
like the Kenny Simpson stuff. So it's a lot of
Okay,
buck, gap down backer, uh, you
okay,
know
okay.
Power's called belly. I've never I say it's power, but in his world,
Right.
it's belly, so that's fine, we'll do with that, but,
Same thing.
we're just, looking yeah, we're looking to get that,
Right,
if you can take that down block and get some movement, we'll take that and then climb up to backer and then, really getting our guards to be flat, down that line and the understanding of it. It's something that's probably one of the funnest things this year. Quick guard, there's game. I forget which game it was. It finally clicked in his head, and I mean, he made a block, and he looked to the sideline like I did it, and it's like, yeah, you stay flat. Life's a lot better.
yeah, yeah,
Uh, yeah, just general progressions of those, working our down blocks and getting that, and yeah, it's kind of different. I think every scheme you bring in, there's a little adjustment period. and then learning it, and getting the kids to believe in it and stuff. And luckily, right now we have the size to kind of be running something like that, getting
Right.
downhill on people and get movement where we can clear out a group of people and then get around it. So
Right, right,
yeah,
right, right. Where our group we had was kind of thin and quick, athletic. I mean, offensive linemen. You know, you had Brinks Peterman in that group, and then you had I think it was a Whittle, right? That was another big guy that we had. I think he was his second year. He was his second
yeah,
year. Was it Whittle? I think so. He's a big old
yeah.
tackle for you.
Nolting and then Seidel was the center, and then yeah. I mean, we basically had basketball guys playing football is how
Yes.
we kind of looked at it, I think.
Yeah.
And it was we realized we were not strong enough to be in a stance and fire out and get, but we were looking for coverage in that
Right.
scheme.
Right.
And,
Right.
yeah, it was just, allowed us to be see things, get up to things quicker, weren't as powerful as we probably had hoped to be, but we didn't really need that with that group of kids. So
Right.
whereas this year we went a little more after it, downhill stuff.
Right. And again, I watched your championship game, I watched your playoff game, and I felt like, "Oh, man, these guys are you were on a backer at second level so quick." So, what was your teaching
No,
points with that, you know what I mean? Because you guys were on a backer quick. Like, and as a linebacker coach, I was like, "Damn, like, that's impressive."
yeah. Yeah, I
So
mean,
what
it's, yeah, really a little too fast for some of our RPOs. We got yelled at quite a bit for that from some of the passing staff, but, we're not gonna slow down, so they better
Right,
quarterback, wide receiver better fix but, yeah, if your responsibility's gone, we wanna get up to that backer, and that's kinda, you know, I would say we're very lucky this year with the kids and the personnel we have. One guy could block somebody. We weren't spending a lot of
right,
time on double teams, because of the way our strong side was set up, and they were handling people very well. So we were able just to get up to backers and go and trust that guy next to us to handle it. Whereas, you know, kind of our lower level guys, JV and freshmen and stuff, it's like we're not getting that because, we're spending more time on that
right,
first level, getting that
right,
movement and stuff.
right. How
But
how did you
yeah, it's
handle,
just
like
kind of,
How did you handle, like, your X Games and your twist at the ends and some of your backer twists? How did you handle some of that when you were down blocking? Did a lot of that wash away, or how'd you have to adjust?
Yeah, that's always tough when you face that stuff because you never want a kid to freeze because that's
Right,
deadly and
right,
that's what the defense wants. You don't want 'em the guard and the tackle looking at each other, wondering what to do, and it's just, really getting into their heads that, that this is our step. If we're supposed to go down, we're going down, and, the rest will figure itself out. But if we stop and go, well, I've gotten that guy, I don't know, just go, get out of the way at least, and then, we'll figure it out from there. So we'd rather having you blocking somewhere, some space than clogging space. So it's just, yeah, kind of that breaking them, getting it, and that's, again, a thing that younger kids struggle with because they go, well, that was my guy, and now he went over there. Um, and our group this year, that varsity group, did an excellent job of I'm going to get on my plane and I'm just going to take what's there.
right. Okay, good, good, good. Wow, that's a lot of, like I said, a lot of good stuff, man. All right, my last question is that goofy question because we're about our mark, and again, coaches, if you need more information, like I said, offensive line is so in depth. Mike will be glad to sit down with you, answer calls, emails, however it is. He's a great resource to have. Okay, I got to ask my goofy question. Here we go. Okay, who would win in a race, Tanner Warrington or Mike Mertes?
That's Coach Warrington all the way. My running days are a long past me, and that man is a legend. He owns yeah, he owns some very high records for running around the block and stuff, in his younger days when we could talk him into that. But that's, kinda jogged the other day. That didn't go so well for anybody. So, no, he would win. That's
He would win? He would win? Okay.
a
Well,
lot.
like I said, man, I enjoyed our time, and I learned a lot from you, and I again, I remember I took over for Forest City, and I was so nervous about offensive line play. I sat down with you and learned a lot from you. So, all right, how can coaches reach out to you? What's a good contact information?
Yeah, you can just hit me up on the school email is probably the easiest one that I'll actually check and stuff, and that's just mjmertis@kemper.org. So,
Okay. All right.
and we'll, yeah, gladly answer any questions. has and help.
Okay. And before I thank you, you make sure you tell Jackie thank you for letting me borrow your time because I don't want her to beat me up. She's pretty tough. So she's a
I know,
sweetheart.
there's
I
I've
love
got to learn on done and practice. Yeah, it's
yeah.
she kept
I
the
love
kids
that though.
quiet. I'm
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, hey, again, thank you, coaches. Thank you, Coach Mertes, for your time. And listeners, again, if you need to talk to Coach Mertes, you can email him at any time. You can also re-listen to our podcast on YouTube TV, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. And again, we just appreciate you, coaches. And anytime you need anything from any of us, reach out to us. That's what we're here for to give back to our community. So, like we always say, keep grinding. Thank you.